Hey guys, wanted to go ahead and do a review of the Kefine Klean original. It's been a long time since I've re-reviewed this. So yeah, I wanted to go ahead and give you my 2 cents and to go from there. This will be reviewed in the new format. Okay, so before I go on further, I'm going to go and put some notes on the screen. Please note that whatever is in the notes is a little bit different from what's in the video. All right, so the first thing I want to say is, how does this kind of sound like? So to me, this actually sounds pretty neutral. But it's slightly warm slanted and a little bit of a tiny little bass boost, but it's kind of like, and everyone has their different notions of neutral, but to me it sounds like, kind of neutral, a little bit of bass boost, slightly warm tilted. So it's like kind of like in many ways, it kind of sounds like a thinner sounding Truth or Pure in some ways. Truth or Pure is just like way more polished compared to this though. So I really do think you're better off spending the additional $20 to get the Pure. But anyway, all right. So I actually tip rolled because I didn't really quite like how it sounded on stock ear tips. But the funny thing is, even when I use Kiwi Ears Flex and I use all sorts of different ear tips, everything would actually sacrifice something. Like what I would notice pretty often is that either the vocals would get really sharp or the bass or something, you would lose something with bass. And so in the end, I just kind of went back to the stock ear tips, ironically. So this was the best configuration for me. All right, so let me go ahead and talk about the bass here. So it's a little tricky. Initially, I gave it a B, but as more and more I heard it, I'm like, no, it's kind of like more of a C. And I'll kind of explain. What I don't like is that the sub bass is actually quite like, it just is very below correct. So I won't make right. So the sub bass is basically, if this is how much sub bass you should be having, it feels so substantially below that. So I'm just like, you should have more sub bass, right? And while they are separate, it still maintains the other thing too is that every time I would actually tip roll to different something else, you actually do sacrifice a little bit of bass. It just feels like I swear when I would actually use Dunu Candies, I was actually getting less bass than I was compared to the stock ear tips. When I was using Kiwi Ears Flex, it would, each time you actually try to use every ear tip, you're like, you lose something. And that sucks because it should be the other way around, ideally. So, but to me, I definitely heard much better bass in this. This isn't bad. It's just that it feels like there's two problems. There's just not enough sub bass, and there's not enough impact and power in the bass. But second of all, the other ear tips that you use actually will negatively affect the bass. So the overall consensus of all the ear tips I've been using have been dropping the bass down on this to like a C. So to me, the bass is like a C. And especially in comparison to many of the other IEMs I've tested, this is a C in bass, in my opinion. Okay, let's talk about female vocals. Don't tell me it's too late. Okay, so this is what's tricky about it. So initially, on the first track, when I listened to BB, I was like, hey, she sounds pretty good. And then later on, as I began to listen to other songs, I checked out XG, New Dance, and things like that, and I was checking each singer, I started to notice that there is a plasticky tone to a lot of the female singers. And I know a lot of folks say the word plasticky, so I'll just give you my interpretation. And I kind of write this in the notes, but it's kind of like someone is, imagine a really good singer, and they're singing on a good microphone. But then they're on a Zoom call. I don't know if you guys ever used Zoom before, but Zoom kind of chuffs up audio. That's what it sounds like. It sounds like someone has a good voice and they're on a good mic, but they're on Zoom. And that audio coming through Zoom is like chuffing up and messing up their voice. That's what it sounds like to me. It sounds like something is like messing up what should be perfect audio. And so, and I actually mentioned this in my older, kind of quick takes before, but I never could put my finger on it but now I can actually do it. And now that I've actually studied this more thoroughly today, you know what it is? This IM, when it comes to female vocals, is like a C. It is average. And you know why? Because for the most part, it's okay. Like, it's not like, wow, that sounds amazing. That sounds good. Dude, no. It just sounds like, when it does things right, it just sounds like, yeah, that sounds correct. But then when it does things wrong, whoa, it sounds just wrong. Again, and I was saying, sometimes the vocals, I've noticed they either sound thin or they sound like I said, it sounds like their audio is coming through like a Zoom conference call. I don't know if you guys have ever been on Zoom, and this post right now is as of today, because who knows, maybe Zoom will like improve their technology and the audio will be a lot better today, but I don't know. But as of today, like, you'll understand the analogy if you actually use Zoom. Okay, now let's talk about male vocals.
No way.
Man, you know what? The male vocals on here, I'm going to give it a grade of C-. I actually don't think it's very good. So the way it sounds is it's neutral but thin. And I noticed that across the board, across all three of us. And when I say all three of us, I mean I check Justin's voice, I check my voice, and I check Chris's voice. So Chris sounds like his voice is correct, but his voice is slightly thinner.
I thought we were great.
Justin's voice sounds basically almost neutral, but his voice sounds a little bit thinner.
Yeah, you got that yum.
And my voice, what I did was I wore this IM, I used a neutral microphone. You know what it does? It's like it's neutral. Like, it sounds like a neutral microphone that's thinned out. Like, it just sounds like it's just like my voice is thinner, but the warmth is neutral. You know what I mean? Is the best way. So there's nothing full. There's nothing full about the vocals here. They're not full. They're not lush. They're not on point. These are kind of bad. You know what I mean? It's just a little thin. All right, so I'm going to go and do a demonstration here. So basically, this is raw audio where I'm not doing any EQ. But basically, this is a deeper voice, and this is a higher pitched voice. And what I'm next going to do is I'm going to put some really shitty EQ on it. And you're going to see that although this gets thinner and this gets thinner, this is much more noticeably thinner because it starts out thin, right? So this is Michael Bublé. Let's start. 1, 2, 3.
You give your hand to me.
And then there's this right here.
Yeah, you got the yum.
So right off the bat, now when you add a really bad EQ on this, right? So if I go here and let's just do something really bad. I'm talking like something like this, right? Just something really cracked, right? So here, although you can tell his vocals are slightly affected, he still sounds good, right? Watch.
You give your hand to me.
But here, you're going to notice a substantial difference, right?
Yeah, you got the yum.
And that's kind of what I'm saying is like these. And that's kind of what I'm noticing is that, some of these IEMs that are kind of like add a little bit of bright slant to it, it will negatively affect the guy who has kind of like a higher pitched voice. Anyway, the too long didn't read is that I would give male vocals a grade of C- because they overall sound neutral but thin is the overall 2 cents I would say regarding that. Okay, so how does this deal with harsh instruments? Holy crap, this is absolutely dreadful, terrible with harsh instruments. I was listening to Luna, I was it was so bad. I was I don't even want to do this. I don't even want to do the separation test. This is so god awful. Basically, it's so bad. When the harsh instruments come in, I was dropping the volume down. I was dude, get me out of here. I'm going to put this at the far left in terms of harshness. This is absolutely terrible for harsh instruments. I would not recommend it. But, okay, and here's the contrast. When it comes to vocal sibilance, as a human voice, sibilance.
Most iconic television plots of all time can be found in Season 7, Episode 6 of Seinfeld.
It's actually pretty chill. It's actually not bad. At lower volume, you're not really going to get much sibilance, and at higher volume, you don't. So it's harsh with harsh instruments, or more specifically, it's harsh in that Luna song. But in my opinion, that's a pretty good gauge of harsh instruments. But when it comes to actual sibilance, vocally, it's actually pretty chill. The soundstage actually does feel pretty wide on here. But what I also want to say is the separation actually is not good on here. Actually, when I was listening to the Luna track, I would notice that their voices would get lost in the mix. Like, like when the beats come in and all that, and their voice, it just gets covered by the mix. So I don't think it has the best separation, But overall, if I had to describe this IM in one sentence, it's like neutral, maybe slightly neutral warm, and just thin sounding. Yeah, I mean, that's my 2 cents.